this week has been anything but boring. The global economy is already feeling the shockwaves. Trump's tariffs are just getting rolled out, but Trump isn't playing around when it comes to reshaping America's trade deals. So here to break it all down for what it means for your wallet, inflation, the future of the economy, is somebody who knows it just about better than anyone else. It's author of MoneyGPT, Jim Rickards. So Jim, thanks for joining the show once again, because we know, right? Trump is rolling out these new tariffs. He has all the confidence like he always does, but you have some people out there, they're saying this is genius, and others are going, oh my gosh, look at the stock market. This is going to wreck the economy. So where do you land on this?
It's definitely genius. I can explain why. The stock market is it's not a great indicator of the economy as a whole or the predictions where the economy is going to go. Stock market goes its own way. Now, obviously, the stock market's been crashing for the last couple of days. It's down significantly. If you go back to last December, it's down over 20%, close to 25%. Could go down 50%. I wouldn't rule that out. I don't think we're at the bottom. And everyone's blaming tariffs. Trump put these tariffs on and the stock market crashed. Well, two things. Number one, it's been going down since December. It didn't happen overnight. And number two, it has very little to do with tariffs. The stock market was in a bubble. So you have a bubble. Let's think of it as a balloon. You inflate it. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then a pin comes along and pops the bubble. Do you blame the pin, or do you blame the fact that the balloon was overinflated? I've been saying for 2 years the stock market's in a bubble. Now, what I make it clear, people say you can't see a bubble. Actually, that's not true. Bubbles are easy to spot. What's difficult is knowing exactly when they're going to pop. And so, it turned out to be tariffs was a catalyst. It didn't cause it. The tariffs have barely come into effect. They've been announced. They're going to come into effect. Trump's not bluffing. It's the real serious economic effects from it. But the stock market was a bubble to begin with. It was just waiting for a pin to pop the bubble. It happened. And by the way, over 30% of the market cap of the S&P 500 was in 7 stocks. You had 493 stocks that have been doing nothing for a long time, and 7 stocks that were taking the whole market higher. They're down the most. We know what they are. It's Apple, Microsoft, Tesla, NVIDIA, Amazon, Apple, and a couple others. But that when you have that degree of concentration and that much of a bubble, you are going to get a result like this. It's not because of the tariffs, but it's possible the tariffs just changed the psychology enough to cause it to collapse. But it was an accident waiting to happen.
Yeah, I love hearing people say this out loud, and it is puzzling to me the kind of self-delusion that exists in this country when it comes to the stock market. But let's talk about interest rates for a second, because we know that Trump obviously has made it very clear he wants those to be cut. Is Jerome Powell going to do that?
No. The next meeting is May 7th. They're not going to cut. They did a 50 basis point, 0.5% cut in September. They followed on with 2 more cuts in November and December. But then beginning in January, they went on pause. And the last 2 meetings, they've continued that pause. They always have buzzwords. Pause just means we're not doing anything. I mean, actually, if you listen to Jay Powell's press conferences after these Fed meetings, he kind of says we don't know what's going on. I mean, at least he's honest. But here's the thing. The Fed has to operate under what's called the dual state. What's that? That means they have 2 jobs. This comes out of Humphrey Hawkins in the 1970s. One job is to keep unemployment low. Okay. The other job is to keep inflation low. But it's based on an assumption that they are reciprocal, meaning usually if unemployment's low, inflation is high. But if unemployment is high, inflation is low. That's the assumption. Turns out that assumption is false. I could give you examples of, in the late 1970s, we had 12% unemployment and 15% inflation. They were both high. In the 2010s, we had low inflation and pretty low unemployment. It was coming down. They were both low. So this inverse correlation doesn't exist. It's invented, and it doesn't exist in the real world. What that means is that the Fed has to choose. They still have the dual mandate, but looking at unemployment, looking at inflation, they have to pick which one they're going to fight, and they can't automatically keep the other one under control. Right now, the Fed is very relaxed about unemployment. It went up today to 4.2%. That's not outrageously high. The Fed says it's just normalizing. Job creation was decent. That may change in the future, but at least for now, it was a pretty good report. Meanwhile, inflation has been going up. It was 9.1% in June 2022, came all the way down to about 2.4% about 6 months ago. But in the last 6 months, it's been going up. and it's back up to around 3%. So right now, the Fed is relaxed about unemployment. They're more concerned about inflation. They're not going to raise rates, but they're not going to cut them either. So they're just going to do nothing. So I would kind of take the Fed off the table. They're not really a player at this point. Tariffs are a bigger deal. Stock market's a bigger deal. The Fed's just kind of there, but they're not going to cut rates. And Trump will be very unhappy. I'm sure we'll hear about it.
Well, if we go back to before the election, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is saying, okay, well, in the next 4 years, we might see a new restructuring of the global system, right? Essentially alluding to something like a new Bretton Woods. Do you think that this is going to happen within that time frame that he is suggesting? And do you think that these are the right people at the table to be doing such a thing?
Well, Scott Bessent, I'm a big fan of. I think he absolutely gets it. He's doing the right thing. Peter Navarro, Peter. I think Peter's the trade and manufacturing czar, but he's really the tariff guy. So he's doing the right thing. But there's a third player in this mix, less well known, Stephen Moran, Miran. He's the chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors. But Moran had a paper, it was 26-page, single-spaced, very dense reading. But if you really want to understand it, you kind of have to read this paper. And he laid out something called the Mar-a-Lago Accord. By the way, go back to 2019, my book Aftermath, Chapter 6 is called the Mar-a-Lago Accord. So I actually came up with the phrase, but mine's a little different than Stephen's. So Bessent's plan is called the 3 arrows. He wants deficits to be less than 3% of GDP. He wants real growth to be higher than 3% of GDP. And he wants 3 million barrels of oil per day additional production. So 333, he calls it the 3 hours. We may not have time to go into all the math, but the math works perfectly. What it does, if you grow the economy faster than the debt, we're not going to cut the debt. And we're not going to pay off the debt, and forget about that. But all we really have to do is grow the economy faster than the debt. Then the debt to GDP ratio goes down. That's what you want. That instills confidence. So he's got that exactly right. Navarro's right on tariffs. These tariffs are very high right now, the ones that were put on yesterday. They're going to start to come down because, it's like a telethon. The lines are open. Call the White House. If you don't like your tariff, fine. Call the White House, talk to Peter, talk to the president, and you can cut a deal. And they're open for business. So that's going to find its own way. The Mar-a-Lago Accord is much more challenging. Now what Moran wants is he wants to have his cake and eat it. He wants to weaken the dollar. He wants a cheaper dollar. Which is actually deflationary. It fights inflation. But he does not want to lose the reserve currency status. So he wants to stay as a reserve currency, but cheapen the dollar. And by the way, part of that is saying to other countries, if you think you can get around tariffs by cheapening your currencies, forget it. Then that's when the trade war turns into a currency war. So he's preempting that, saying, no, we're going to cheapen the dollar, too bad for you. But we want to keep our reserve currency status. So how's he going to do that? He has a system. I call it the traffic light system. He doesn't use that phrase, but he says we're going to divide countries into green, yellow, and red. So green means you're a friend. We give you the best tariff treatment. We have good trading relationships with you, and we extend the American security umbrella to include you. Yellow is neutral. It's like you're not an enemy, but you're not our best friend. You're okay. You'll probably get reciprocal tariffs and no security guarantees. Red is you're the adversary. So for now, it'll be Russia, China, North Korea, Cuba, and a few others. You're getting punitive tariffs, and not only no security guarantees, but we might actually confront you in the military and national security sense. So that's his system. Now, I said he wants to cheapen the currency and keep the reserve currency status. That's only been done twice in history. Two people did it. Richard Nixon did it when we went off the gold standard, measured in gold. The dollar devalued 95% in between 1971 and 1980, 95% measured in gold. But we kept our reserve currency status because of the petrodollar deal. And I actually worked on the petrodollar deal. I worked with Henry Kissinger's deputy, Helmut Sonnenfeld, and we were actually planning the invasion of Saudi Arabia. Bill Simon and Jerry Parsky did the friendly deal, which is price oil in dollars, put the dollars in our banks, we'll lend it, and you buy our stuff. But I was on a team working on the invasion just in case they didn't go along with it, but they did. But that's how he did it. The other guy who did it was James Baker in 1985. So we were off the gold standard at the time, but he got the G5 countries, actually, the biggest economies at the time, UK, Germany, Italy, Switzerland, a few others, and they agreed to cheapen the dollar. And they did it by intervention, but they had cooperation. And then the Louvre Accord in 87, they said, okay, done. We accomplished it. Then we had 20 years of currency peace, not currency wars. Now here comes Moran, okay? He doesn't have the petrodollar deal because that's already been done. He doesn't have cooperation because who are the big central banks today? Well, it's China, for example. They're not exactly our friend. So how's he going to do it? He's going to use coercion, and that is very dangerous. So I'd be very, kind of get into it more if you like, but I'd be very careful about what he's doing. But Navarro's got the tariffs right, and Bessent's got the debt to GDP right.
Fascinating. That was incredible. We have to get to it though, and you're the guy to do it. I'll give you the 2-minute challenge here to lay out how you see the tariffs moving forward. How do you game this out? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, it's a fairly simple formula. I think that the formula has been pretty well vetted at this point. Basically, you say, where did he get these tariffs? Well, it's a fraction. So you take our trade deficit with you. So the U.S. is deficit with most countries. Take the trade deficit, divide it by total imports, and then multiply that by 0.5. And that's your tariff. So a real simple example, let's say we have a $200 billion trade deficit with you, but our total imports from you are $400 billion. Well, 200 billion divided by 400 billion as 0.5 times 0.5 is 25%. So you get a 25% tariff. So it's a very simple formula. So how do you get out from under that if you're on the wrong end of that tariff? You're the one getting tariffed. Well, what you do is buy more stuff in the U.S. because that basically reduces the numerator of the fraction, get that 200 billion down to maybe 100 billion, and now your tariff would only be 12.5%. But here's the thing. So the math is easy. This is like fifth grade math. That's how you get your tariff. And the solution is to buy more stuff from the United States, which is what the president wants, reduce that trade deficit. But there's no automatic ratchet. Notice if you do the right thing, you don't automatically get lower tariffs. So what's the benefit for you? Well, the answer is it's a negotiation. Call the White House. Say, hey, we're thinking about buying more of your soybeans or more of your computers or agricultural goods or whatever it might be. And so that's all Trump did. Yeah, these tariffs are high, but like you said, the lines are open. Call the White House, work out a deal, and move in the right direction. So we've had the maximum pain. It's going to get better from here, and the trade deficit is going to go down, and that's good for economic growth.